Welcome back. In this video, I'll be installing the Chine bottom rails. These are essentially fillets that allow the planking to meet up with the chine. And since I've never seen anyone do this before, I'm going to try it in two different ways to see which is the best method. This video will show the first method, and the second method will be in a separate video.
So here I'm going to install the chine bottom rails, and what the chine bottom rail really is just a fillet, so when the planks come down there's a place for them to land. So the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on the chine about where this fillet needs to be, each one. And now I'm going to say, okay, I know about how tall the fillet needs to be and about how wide or deep that is. So it looks like it's about, call it an inch and a quarter thick. So I'm going to come up with some laminates that will fill up that space.
I'm using two boards to make up the chine bottom rail.
See, this is thick enough where it covers that line. That's what I'm looking for. And you can see this isn't quite beautiful, but I'm really just gonna be cutting that down at an angle so it doesn't have to be anything perfect here. It's too big at the back. There's just a lot of sanding and cleaning up I'm gonna do.
I'm just cutting thin strips to make this long laminate.
Let me try to show you what I have going on here with this chine bottom rail. I'm really just trying to make a fillet, and as you can see, it's gonna start off thick at a high angle, and then there's really not much need for it down at the back here. So I'm just piecing together boards. I just have them put in place right now. And by the time I get to the back of this boat, it's really gonna go down to almost nothing. So what I'm literally gonna do is put down some plastic and just try to mold this chine top rail out of scrap pieces of these, I don't know, timbers, if you will. And then I'm gonna try to shape it down to the shape. And I can't decide yet if I'm gonna shape it on or off of the boat. So we'll see how this works out.
While I'm only showing the application of the thickened epoxy, I did coat both sides with unthickened epoxy first. After the epoxy cured overnight, I broke the laminate.
So what I want you to see is on the back side of this, how I've kind of brought in the chine bottom rail and snugged it up to all of the frames, but now you can see there's a lot that needs to be cut out. And I did this and broke it off here, but we'll work on that later. So now I have to figure out how to shape this, and I'm gonna start at the front and work my way back. At the very front up here, obviously this starts right here, contacting the stem, and down here, it should be right at the bottom of the stem as well. So what I want to do here is stick with this top line here and join it down like that. And then over here on frame 1, we know we want to have it come right here and down to, I marked the lines on the chine. So I want it to go from here down to here, that bottom edge like a triangle. So I gotta take that off. On frame 3, it actually connects way down here. And it's gotta, again, go down to this bottom edge. Same thing here, I'm sorry, that was frame 2. On frame 3, just marking the line on the boat where this has to connect. And it comes to this front edge here. I'm gonna make an attempt to do this up close so you can see what I'm trying to do. This bottom chine flat, or bottom chine rail, is supposed to be connecting right here. So I wanna mark where I'm gonna cut this off. And then on this side over here, it's supposed to meet right at the bottom. So I've somehow gotta take all that material off. Okay, so let's see if we can get this right. I need to cut on an angle from there to there. So I'm just clamping this in place so I can cut this with a saw. And what it really has to be cut is from here down to that point.
Great camera work, I know.
So now when that comes in, I got that cut there, and there'll be a lot that gets cleaned up here now, but I got these 2 boards aligned. So I'm gonna cut a notch from this side to this side. Okay, so everything, when I start planing this off, I gotta basically connect down to that cut line. And that's because it met at the top. As I move down further, these lines, I need to be cutting from that line all the way down to this bottom edge. So there's more to cut out. Okay, so that's what I've done. I cut from that line to that edge. And again, when this comes back on here, it just shows how much I need to remove.
Note that as I use the power plane, I raised the bottom chine rail up off of the chine so that I would not clip it. There's still some additional sanding and shaping, but I decided to abandon this method and shape it after being bonded onto the chine. As always, I start with unthickened epoxy. and then coat each surface with thickened epoxy. Here we see the bottom chine rail partially shaped and bonded to the chine. For the remainder of this video, I'll continue shaping the bottom chine rail with the power planer and a belt sander, hoping that I don't cause too much damage to the chine laminate. I attempted to finish the shaping of the chine bottom rail and some of the frames with the belt sander. This turned out to be a lot more difficult than I had planned. As you'll see in this next section, I threw some sparks, and ultimately, I broke the belt. And since this was my last belt, I just kept working. I'll stop here on the starboard side bottom chine rail. If you have any ideas that will help me improve this process, let me know in the comments. In the next video, I plan to learn a little bit more and work on the port side. Till next time, cheers.